What is going on, guys? Welcome, shalom, hello, boys, girls, referees, whatever you want. Hello, and welcome to the first ever referee podcast. Yep, it is happening. I am going to start a podcast, a series, and hopefully it goes down well. It's going to be called the Referee Podcast, obviously, and I'm going to be talking about different referee subjects and things like that. Today, I'm going to talk about the good and the bad of refereeing, why you would do it, why you wouldn't do it, and those sort of things, and just go through them a little bit for you today. And this is completely my list, this is completely my opinion, and if you don't agree with it, that is fine. Let me know what you think the good and bad is in the comments. But I'll go through the good stuff first, because I think they're pretty easy. I think everyone knows why they referee, and then we'll go through some of the bad stuff, whereas if you are a referee, you probably know what I am talking about. But the good stuff, obviously the first thing, and most referees actually say that this is not why they referee, but I can guarantee you it is why at least the younger refs start, and it's a little job, it's a money. You referee for money. It's why I started refereeing. I needed a job. I didn't want to work in a Tesco's or something like that, so I refereed. I stayed in football. I wanted to carry on doing sport, so refereeing was the perfect job for me. It's cash in hand. It's quick. You get like 20 quid for an hour when you're doing kids games to start off with, and it was a great way of earning myself some money, and it was a good way of my dad stopping having to give me some money. He just drove me everywhere instead. So I think most people do start refereeing as it is a source of money, and it's a pretty good one as well, especially as you go up. I'm level 5 at the moment, going for 4, and the men's games you get around £35–40 a game, which isn't bad at all, for like 90 minutes work, maybe 30-minute travel. It is not bad. £20 an hour. It's a lot better than working in Tesco's for 8 hours and getting less money, which is what my brother did. He worked at a fish and chip shop for hours and hours. I got more money than him in about a 2-hour period. So the first good thing about refereeing is the money, of course. The second good thing is that it keeps you fit. You know, it's a source of activity. It's healthy. You run around for 90 minutes if you're, well, some of the older referees don't run around as much, but you mainly run around, get around the pitch, good run around, and it's good on the legs. So yeah, fitness is the definite one as a good for refereeing, and it means I don't have to go to the gym to do leg day, which I probably should, as my legs are looking rather skinny. But yeah, it was also fun. Another good thing about refereeing is it's fun. And you have some good days, you have some bad days, but mainly if you get, most of the games are good and they are fun to do. If you have a good laugh with the players, good laugh with the coaches, whoever, it can be really fun and enjoyable, especially as you can go to meetings with RAs and counties. It can be good, and you can meet loads of friends, which moves me on to the next point of it being social. So you have your RAs and you have the counties and stuff like that, where you can go meet with other referees, maybe meet professional referees or guests that they bring, and it's a good way to meet new friends and just have a social life other than school or something like that. And if you're older, it might be the only source of socializing that you can do. So it is very social. And lastly, for good, it is obviously a potential future job. If you start young enough, if you're good enough, then it is 100% a potential future job. You can go very far in refereeing, you can get a decent wage, and if you make it to the top, it can be absolutely amazing. So yeah, if you are young and you are a decent referee, it can be a good source of income, and it can be a job, which would be a fantastic job, I think, for anyone that referees. Now, moving on to the bad stuff about refereeing. This is my list. I have to repeat that again. This is my list, and I hate all of these things about refereeing. And I've almost quit a few times. I haven't ever quit. I mean, there's been weeks where I haven't wanted to go, maybe cried off. I think everyone's cried off a game once or twice. But mainly these things, they just really annoy me. So I'm going to start with something that no one can change, and that is the weather. Who enjoys refereeing in the winter? When it's minus 10 degrees, when it's snowing, when it's cold. The last thing I want to do is get into my referee kit and run around that pitch. It is just the last thing I want to do. You can pay me a lot of money and I still won't enjoy going out in that cold weather and refereeing. I hate going out in the cold anyway. I hate going outside. But when it's cold, it really does annoy me. And especially when it's raining as well and everything gets wet. And it's just not a nice experience. Another thing I don't like is early mornings. Waking up at 7, 8, 9 to get to a game. Most people wake up at that time. I don't. I wake up at 2 p.m. So to wake up at 9 or 10 in the morning to get to a game is literal torture. And I hate doing it, but I have to. I am not going to lie again. I have missed games because I've slept in. Or just slept through my alarm. Which is not a good thing. And I don't do that. But I've definitely done it before. I'm not an early morning person. I'm not a morning person. So sometimes when the games are like 10, 11 o'clock and there's a bit of travel involved, it can be bad. Moving on, this is a bit more deep, and I find mainly when you're either doing kids games or you move up into semi-pro football or something like that. But we'll start with parents, and this is at youth football. When I was doing kids football, I loved doing the game. The only thing I hated was the parents on the sideline who thought their son was so good and they just weren't. Literally everything was a foul. On my first ever game, it was under 11s. My first ever game I refereed, under 11s. And a mum came up to me after and said, "You had a poor game, you should have done better. My son was getting pinched all game." Firstly, how am I supposed to see that your son is getting pinched? I mean, I can't look at every single person and see someone getting pinched from behind. And secondly, you deal with that. Don't bring that to me. The game's finished. Thank you. But yeah, the parents were just absolutely awful. And it's a good reason why I stopped doing kids football and went to men's after 8 years. Coaches and players, they can be bad. But I haven't had as much problems with them yet. Coaches can be very loud on the side, especially the further up you go. They can be very annoying and loud because they think they have to say everything for the players. They try and keep the players quiet, but then they have to say everything, and it's just annoying. And no matter what you say, they will argue against it. So coaches can be very annoying, and players, obviously, if sometimes they can get annoyed, over passionate, whatever they call it, but they can abuse referees, and that is not good. They can. I've had a guy square up to me, and I'm literally like 5'7", so I don't know what he was squaring up to, but he tried to square up to me, and he had an early shower. So if you want to do that, go ahead. But I've never been physically or verbally abused by a player or anyone yet, which is good. But yeah, that does lead me on to the next point, which was dissent and abuse. There is a fine line between dissent and abuse. I can take a bit of dissent. I don't mind if someone's like, "Oh, it's a shit decision, ref. You could have done better there. I don't agree with that." I can take that. That is fine. Call me whatever you want, and I will either say something back in a jokey way, or I will yellow card you, red card you, whatever it takes. Abuse is completely different, though. I mean, if you are putting your hands on a referee, pushing, headbutting, kicking, sprinting after, if you are abusing a referee, you need to think about yourself. Why? And if you are a referee that has been abused, let me know. But yeah, it is just a horrible thing, and it's not something you want to receive when you're going out helping them have a game of football on a Saturday morning, which we've already talked about. An early morning is enough. You're going out on a Sunday morning and getting abused for it. What is the point? And it can make a lot of people give up, and it has made a lot of people give up refereeing, which is not what we need. We need more referees, and players aren't helping. So they can complain about referees all they want, but if you're pushing referees away, you haven't got the right to complain. But yeah, I do know someone who someone tried to attempt to run over a person I know after giving them a red card in the 90th minute, which is awful. I know a player ran after a referee with a baseball bat. Someone got headbutted. There was someone who, Turkish league, they ran after him and kicked him on the floor and stuff. It's just not what anyone wants to see. It shouldn't be a part of the game, and that is definitely a reason, and a bad reason, for refereeing. But hopefully that never does happen to you, and I'm sure it won't. It is very rare, and as I said, it's never happened to me, but obviously it is possible, and it does happen. And lastly, it is time out of your weekend. You know, you want to be doing other things. You might have been at work all day. You might have been doing other things in the week, and you just want the weekend to relax. But you referee on the weekends, and it does take a few hours up of the weekend, especially if you do Saturday and Sunday. It is quite your weekend is gone, really. But yeah, that is the end of today's podcast, the good and the bad of refereeing. Let me know what you think. I do want to go for longer. I do want to talk about more. Any conversation ideas that you have, let me know in the comments. And hope you enjoyed this. I did enjoy it. And yeah, I want to do a few more of these podcasts because I like talking, and I just like talking about refereeing. So if you have any ideas, let me know.